Hey guys, it's Kevin again this morning for the season premiere of Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 1, The Wars to Come. And obviously, I was hyped for this episode. I mean, seriously, Game of Thrones is one of the best shows on TV, and just who wasn't looking for this premiere? Seriously, I could not wait for this premiere, especially after last year's finale. I absolutely love last year's finale, and I love where it put us. And this season, the way that this episode was, I can already tell this is probably going to be the best season of Game of Thrones. I really can tell. I mean, I'm so excited, seriously. This premiere obviously was amazing, and I can't wait for the rest of the season, and let's get into this episode because it was amazing, and there were a lot of things that I loved about this premiere, and honestly, it kind of feels like it's going to be a different season, but I really like it. I'm going to talk about what I mean by that, but let's get into this episode because it was absolutely amazing. So, we start off where, of course, we saw it. By the way, guys, I can't tell you how much I miss Game of Thrones. Like, this episode really made me realize how much I miss Game of Thrones. Seeing the intro, I was like, yes, I'm ready for this. I couldn't wait for it. So, we see two girls, one blonde and one brunette, track through the mud in the forest, and I could tell that this was actually a Cersei flashback. We were seeing Cersei's flashback to Cersei's childhood because they said we were going to see this, and of course, Game of Thrones never actually done a flashback before, but they did a really good job with this. Because basically, the one girl is, we don't know her name, but basically, the brunette is worried about about Cersei's father finding out. But Cersei looks at her and tells her she doesn't need to worry about her father. That's basically a Cersei thing to say, and they come to a cabin, and the brunette is hesitant to go in, but Cersei is determined. They enter and find a woman sleeping, and the brunette bumps into a caged rat, and the woman wakes up, and basically Cersei says that the woman was supposed to be terrifying, but is instead just boring. And again, these are totally things Cersei would say. If you guys don't know, I don't like Cersei's character. I really don't. I find her annoying. I find her bitchy. I find her manipulative. I don't like her character. The actress that plays her is great, but I don't like her character. However, I really like this flashback. It made us see more about Cersei's character, and I definitely really enjoyed that. So the witch hands Cersei this knife and tells her to give her a taste of blood, and basically she slices her thumb, and the witch licks the blood from the wound, and the witch tells her she gets 3 questions, and I thought this was kind of interesting. Because basically she says she's promised to the prince, and she's been promised to the prince and wants to know when she will marry. And basically, the witch says that she'll never marry the prince, but will marry the king instead. And basically, Cersei asks if she'll be queen, and the witch says she will be queen for a time until another younger, more beautiful queen comes to cast her down. And what I like about this is that it's really showing how Cersei is right now. I mean, still she wants to be queen. She's always wanted to be with the king, but she's not with the king, and Basically, Cersei asks if she and the king will have children. The witch says no, and the king will have 20 children, and she will have 3, which she did have 3. She had Joffrey, and, she had Joffrey, and the blonde says that she doesn't make any sense, and the witch says gold will be their crowns and their shrouds, and then laughs, and the brunette tells Cersei they have to go, and that's basically how the flashback ends. And I don't really know what that's trying to show. I kind of feel like it's supposed to show the current state of how Cersei is right now, just how Cersei was. And a lot of people are wondering really what that was supposed to show. I definitely feel like we're going somewhere, and I feel like we're going to see more flashbacks as the season goes on. I don't feel it's going to be the only flashback we see. It just seems like this is going to be something they do for their whole season. If that's true, I think that's really interesting, because I'd love to see what exactly they're setting up here, because I find that very interesting. So in present time, we see Cersei. She's riding in her palanquin, dressed in black to her, basically, we don't know where she's going, but she's at, Tywin's funeral, and Marjorie smiles at Cersei as she climbs the steps, and Cersei tells the High Septon that the Moors will wait while she has a moment alone with her father, regardless of how far they have traveled. And it's just like, come on, Cersei, why does everything have to be about... That's the other thing I can't say about Cersei. Everything has to be about Cersei, and I understand we're supposed to hate her character, but still, everything has to be about her, and it's really fucking annoying. So Cersei finds Jaime inside the sept with Tywin's body, and for a while I was thinking, do they know that Tyrion killed Tywin? Because, I mean, there was no one there when Tyrion killed Tywin. There was no one that could have seen it. But you can tell that they do know. They discuss their father's wants and desires, and Jaime says that Tywin built everything for them. And I really thought this was a really good scene. It definitely shows the impact that Tywin had on them. Definitely, I really enjoyed this. It was a good send-off to the character as well. I think they did a really good job with that in this episode. Definitely a very good send-off to his character. So basically he says the people outside will immediately try to tear it down, and Cersei blames Tyrion for everything, and Jaime for not listening to her warnings about Tyrion in the first place, and I'm just like, you just got back together with Jaime, and now you're blaming him for Tyrion. It doesn't make sense. I mean, it seemed like they were going to get back together, but after this episode, no, you see that's not happening, and of course she's blaming Tyrion for everything, saying that Tyrion's a monster, and I mean, I do like what she said, that Tyrion at least killed Tywin on purpose, but he's no monster. He did this because Tywin did this to him and he was getting his revenge. That is why Tyrion did what he did. He did not do this just to do that. That's why he did it for a specific reason, and I love that, I was very happy that, he did, of course everyone was happy was Tywin did that. Of course, Tyrion had the balls to do that. That's why Cersei, I think, is so upset, because she didn't have the balls to do that. Jaime would never have the balls to do that. Tyrion is the only person that had the balls to kill Tywin, and honestly, it was time to kill Tywin. It really was. After a while, it was time to kill him, and I'm happy that they did kill him, because it was the best thing for Tyrion to do. So, of course, they're all upset about it, but I like that Jaime said he did it by accident, and I always love that Jaime, he tries to see the best in Tyrion. I've talked about this before, but Jaime always tries to see the best in Tyrion. Even if Tyrion did something on purpose, he always tries to see the best in him, and I honestly really like seeing Jaime in that position of just trying to see the best in him. Even though Tyrion, he knows he messed up, he likes to see, he wants to see the best in him, which I love seeing. So, basically, Cersei says that Tywin loved Jaime more than anyone in the world, which is true, and she kisses Tywin's forehead and walks out of the steps. So you can see that she's pretty pissed at what's going on, and she's pretty upset at Jaime as well. You can tell she's upset at Jaime. So we see where Tyrion is, and I really wasn't sure where they were going to put Tyrion at the end of, where they ended it last season. I really was not sure where Tyrion was going to go. I mean, we know that Tyrion was going off on his own, and we knew he was going by ship, but we did not know where he was going. And we actually catch up with him, and I have to say, what they're doing with Tyrion might be the most interesting part of this season, where they're going with him. I love seeing it. So, Tyrion watches the world outside through a hole in his crate as he travels by ship and is carried through a city, and the crate is finally opened, and Tyrion falls out, and basically, he finds Varys standing over him, and they're at Lyro's home in Pentos, a place where Varys and others who saw King Robert as a disaster first gathered to support a Targaryen restoration. And when he said Targaryen, I'm like, somehow Daenerys and somehow Daenerys' storyline and their storyline, somehow it's gonna cross over, and I really love seeing that. So Varys tries to talk of the future, but Tyrion's only interested in drinking, and I thought it was honestly kind of funny. I mean, I understand Tyrion's really a depressed, but he's just drinking, and he doesn't give a shit what Varys is saying. He even throws up because he's drinking so much, and I mean, I think Tyrion he's tired of all the drama that's going on. He wants to just sort of just like, that's like his coping mechanism, is just drinking. That's why he's drinking so much, is because it's his coping mechanism. It's the best way for him to get over all of the crazy shit that's going on in his life, and that's how he can get over it. So, in Meereen, the Great Harpy is pulled down from the top of the Great Pyramid, and one of the Unsullied passes several whores on the street until he finds a particular one, and he pays her and enters her home, and she asks if he wants the same as always. She's topless and holds him on her bed, stroking his head. She's humming the song as his eyes are closed. Amanda Mass slits his throat, and that was pretty crazy, I have to say, when we saw that. I mean, that was insane. So, in the Great Pyramid, we see Daenerys. She receives a report of the murder, and I honestly do feel really bad for Daenerys. As we know, she had to put her dragons in prison. She had to put them down, and I was interested in seeing where that was going to go here. Also, the poster that we saw with Tyrion, it makes a lot more sense after tonight's episode, and I'm going to talk about why it makes more sense. So, Daenerys receives a report of the murder. It was committed by a member of a group called the Sons of the Harpy, who left his mask behind, and Daenerys demands the Unsullied named White Rat be buried in public and with honor. So she hopes to draw the Sons of the Harpy out and demands they be found and brought to her. Now, I don't know what the Sons of the Harpy, what exactly this is setting up, but obviously she's against them and she wants to do whatever she can to bring them down, and I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. So, Grey Worm and other Unsullied arm themselves, and Missandei asks to speak with Grey Worm, and the other Unsullied clear out, and Missandei says White Rat was killed in the city's brothels, and that he's not the only Unsullied to visit. She asks why, and Grey Worm says he doesn't know, and I thought that was, really interesting when we see, why he doesn't really know why Grey Worm was killed, and I think that was really interesting when we saw that. So, basically, at the wall, Jon Snow trains a young Night's Watch recruit while Sam talks with Gilly, and I love Sam and Gilly. I've talked about this before. I really do love their characters, and I think, honestly, after the 9th episode, it really made us care more about their characters. I mean, I care more about their characters, but after the whole, like, big battle of, the Night's Watch, I love seeing this. So, basically, Throne walks through the yard saying that the man's needed a strong hand, and Sam and Gilly are worried that Thorne will be made Lord Commander and send Gilly and her baby away. So Melisandre finds Jon in the yard and says the king wants a word. So basically, Jon and Melisandre travel to the top of the wall, and Jon asks if she's cold, and Melisandre says the Lord's flies live within her. She asks if Jon's a virgin, he says no, and she says that's good. So you can see that Melisandre sort of has a little bit of a crush on Jon and might want to, have sex with him and things like that, and I find that kind of interesting, so I was wondering where that was going to go. And Jon kneels before Stannis, and Roose Bolton now rules at Winterfell, and Stannis asks if Jon wants revenge for what happened to the Starks, obviously because he's the cause of the whole, Red Wedding and everything. They're still trying to get the revenge on what happened at the Red Wedding, and I love seeing that. So Jon says he wants many things, but is a brother of the Night's Watch now, and I like seeing that. Jon saying that I want to do what the Night's Watch want to do. He doesn't want to do something that the Night's Watch wouldn't want him to do. He wants to do what they want him to do, because he's a part of the Night's Watch, and if he did something that the Night's Watch did not want him to do, he wouldn't be able to live with himself. He'd be really upset, and he's not going to do that. So Davos notes that some of the Night's Watchmen love him, but others don't really trust him because of his relationship with the Wildlings. And Stannis says he will take back the North and mount Bolton's head on a spike, but that he needs more men. And Stannis wants the Wildlings, and he offers pardons, citizenship, and land if Mance Rayder kneels and swears loyalty before Stannis. And Stannis tells Jon to convince Mance to kneel by nightfall, or Mance will burn. Now, Stannis, I was interested in seeing where we were going to go with Stannis, because as we know, Stannis wants to become king. He wanted to take over with Tywin. He wanted to be king like Tywin was. Now Tywin's not king. I was wondering if Stannis would have the opportunity. Now we don't get to that in this episode, but I definitely feel like that's what we're setting up here, is that eventually Stannis is going to become king. I don't know when, but I feel like that's what we're setting up. So Littlefinger and Sansa watch Robin train at sword fighting, and I was interested in seeing what was going to happen with Sansa, because the last time we saw Sansa was episode 8, and I didn't really know where Sansa was going, and we finally see Sansa after, many episodes. So it seemed like many episodes at least. It was episode 8 of last season. We haven't seen her since then, so it was cool to see her again. So basically, Robin is training at sword fighting, and Robin is pretty bad at it, and Petyr sees a message and reads it before putting it in his sleeve, and Petyr and Sansa leave for a meeting, and then we see Brienne and Pod, who I've said before, I love these two. You could just watch a whole episode around these two, and it'd be so entertaining. They're so funny, and I love Brienne and Pod. So basically, Pod asks if they're headed north, and Brienne says she's not a knight, and Pod is an esquire, and Pod reminds her that she swore to find the Stark girls, and Brienne says Arya didn't want her help, and Pod says Sansa might, and I mean, I understand what they're trying to set up here. As I said before, Arya is right where Jon Snow is. Remember, Arya is headed to where Jon Snow is. We don't see Arya in this episode, but as we know, at the end of last season, Arya's headed to where Jon Snow is. So they are definitely setting up a Stark reunion. I mean, if Brienne knows where Arya is, she can find Sansa, she can reunite the Stark family. I don't know if that's the plan right now, but definitely I feel like we're getting to that point where they're going to set up the Stark reunion. I know we are getting a Stark reunion this season. After last year's cliffhanger, there's no way we are not getting a Stark reunion. I know I said it last season that we're getting a Stark reunion, but this season, I'm pretty sure we're getting a Stark reunion. I really feel like we are. So Petyr and Sansa caravan travel past, and Sansa notes that Petyr told Lord Royce they were headed toward the Fingers, but now they're heading west instead, and Petyr says they are heading to a land so far from here that even Cersei can't touch them. And I thought that was great, because as we know, Cersei is going after Sansa. She constantly she still feels like Sansa's the one that might have killed, that might have killed Joffrey, and I like that that's still unsolved. We don't know who killed Joffrey. They're pretty sure that it's Tyrion now, but of course, that's why Sansa had to get away from King's Landing, because they thought that she killed Joffrey and everything, and basically, now they're trying to get away from Cersei, and I thought that was great. So Loras Tyrell is eulogizing Tywin to Cersei, but she's distracted watching Mace Tyrell as well as Tommen and Marjorie flirting, and I'm just like, what is the problem with Tommen and Marjorie flirting? Like, seriously, Tommen is being a good king. Like, he hasn't done anything wrong. He's not like, just because he doesn't rant all the time like Joffrey, just because he hasn't done as much doesn't mean he's a bad king, so She walks toward them but runs into Lancel, who has his hair cut and is dressed in plaincloth clothing, and basically Kevon Lannister explains that his son has joined a group of religious fanatics called the Sparrows. So Lancel finds Cersei alone, and Lancel asks for forgiveness for tempting her into their unnatural relations, and I kind of see a romance brewing between these two. I really do. I mean, Cersei seems interested in him. It might be good for Cersei to be in a relationship. I could see this happening. Basically, he says he's a different person now, having found peace in the light of the Seven, and he invites her to find the same, saying their world is at hand and that he'll pay for Tywin's soul, and she laughs at that, and Loras, and so I really like seeing that, and I thought that was a good scene overall. I definitely feel like these two, I feel like they're setting up something, but what do you guys think? Do you want Lance and Cersei together? I kind of feel like they're setting up something there. So, Loras and his lover are inspecting a curious birthmark on Loras' leg. They speak of leaving the capital for anywhere else, and Marjorie walks in on them. It's quite a funny scene. She's like, we're late for dinner, so I love that she just is sitting there while these two are naked. It was so funny, and she asks the other man's name, and he says his name is Oliver, and Oliver leaves, and Marjorie suggests a bit more discretion, but Loras doesn't see a point when everyone already knows, because everyone knows that Loras is gay, and that he has, sexual relations with men, so why should they be worried? So they discuss Loras's betrothal to Cersei, and basically Loras says without Tywin to force the issue, they'll never marry, leaving Cersei at King's Landing hovering over Marjorie, and Marjorie only says perhaps. Now, of course, we know that Cersei and Loras, she was planning on marrying Loras, but now that Loras is gay, I feel like now what's going to happen is that wedding is not going to happen. He's going to do whatever he can to prolong the wedding so it doesn't happen. And I can understand why he's trying to prolong the wedding. Obviously, he doesn't want to marry Cersei. He only wants to marry her because, she wants to do it. And of course, if Cersei has an agenda, it needs to get done. That's the other thing I can't stand about Cersei. Whatever Cersei, wants done, it gets done. That's how Cersei always works. Nothing ever backfires for Cersei. This, I feel, is going to be the first thing that backfires for Cersei, because he's going to do whatever he can to just prolong the wedding to the point where the wedding cannot happen. I definitely feel like that's where we're headed, and I find that very interesting. And honestly, after Lancel, I don't want Loras and Cersei together. I want Cersei with Lancel. I don't want her with Jaime. I think she's way too controlling with Jaime. I don't think she wants anything to do with Jaime, and Lancel and Cersei, I'm fine with that. So at Pentos, Varys tries to speak to Tyrion again, and this scene, I absolutely loved this scene with Tyrion and Varys. I thought this was amazing. So basically, we see, we see Tyrion. Wait, sorry, I lost my place there. Okay, so Varys tries to speak to Tyrion again, and Tyrion asks why Varys set him free, and Varys tells Tyrion it's because Jaime asked him to, and Tyrion knows that it's not the whole story. Varys says he did it for the Seven Kingdoms, and he believes Tyrion has a part to play in the coming war, and you can see that Tyrion doesn't really care what Varys is saying. He's just like, yeah, whatever, who cares? Like, he just really run down, and it's a very different Tyrion from what we're used to seeing, because we're used to seeing Tyrion take action at things. We're used to seeing Tyrion, be a lot more vocal with things, but he's really just a very run down the scene. I think it's just because of the shit he went through last season. That's why he's so run down, and because, everything that happened to him with the trial and everything, he just doesn't really know what to do now. I mean, he did what he needed to do. He killed Tywin. He, that was his victory. That's what he always wanted to do, and now he's done that. I don't really think Tyrion knows where to go. So basically, Varys says he wants peace and prosperity, a land where the powerful do not prey on the powerless, and Tyrion brushes off his fantasy, telling him that that's not going to happen, and Varys said that while Tyrion will never sit on the Iron Throne, he could help someone else get there, someone stronger than Tommen, but gentler than Stannis, because honestly, Tommen is not really a strong king. I think Tommen can get stronger, he's just not strong right now, probably because he just knew it being a king, so Tyrion wishes Varys luck finding him, and Varys notes that he said nothing about it being him, and when he said that, this I find awesome. He invites Tyrion to join him in traveling to Meereen to meet Daenerys, and that is how their stories are going to cross, and I find that awesome, because I don't think we've ever had someone meet Daenerys. I think Daenerys has always been on her own, so to have someone else be with Daenerys, I think is going to be awesome, and it makes sense with the poster, because of course the poster for the season is Tyrion with that dragon. Now we know why. Tyrion is definitely going to be with those dragons, and he's going to meet Daenerys, and I can't wait to see if this actually happens. And I love the line where basically Varys says, "Are you going to just drink yourself to death?" And Tyrion says, "Can I drink myself to death before going to Meereen?" And I thought that was kind of funny, but I definitely feel like Daenerys is going to help Tyrion. She's going to help him become a better man. She's going to show him that this is not the end, that there's still more he can do with his life, and he just needs to look on the bright side, because that's really what he needs to do. So Daario and Hezdahr return from Yunkai with what they believe is a victorious compromise with the Wise Masters, and the Masters agreed to a council and to bring important matters to Daenerys' court, but they want the fighting pits reopened, and Daenerys refuses. So later in her bedroom, Daario tells Daenerys that she should reopen the pits because, that's the best thing to do. And he tells her this story. I thought this was a good story. This story about his mother, who was a whore who grew less profitable as she got older and sold him into slavery. And he ended up in the pits himself. And he says he's only here with Daenerys because of what he learned fighting in the pits. And Daario says he's the only one not too afraid to speak the truth to Daenerys. He says once she's made too many enemies and once she shows weaknesses, they'll strike, and he says she needs to show her strength with her dragons. But Daenerys doesn't want another child dead at her feet because we know that that child died because of the dragon. She doesn't want that to happen again. She's very worried about what's going to happen here. And I'm sure, she knows that she had to prison those dragons. You saw how upset she was, but she really has no choice but to do that. If the dragons are going to be, a lot more powerful and a lot more not very tame, then she needs to find a way to tame them. And maybe Tyrion will be the one to tame them. I kind of could see that happening, especially because of the poster. Maybe that'll be Tyrion's purpose this season, is to help her tame her dragons. And she talks about how no one has seen her dragons in weeks, and that she can't control them anymore. He says a dragon queen with no dragons is not a queen, which I understand what he's saying. She's the queen of the dragons. She needs her dragons, and without her dragons, she really has nothing to do. Because if you think about it, Daenerys has nothing to do right now because she doesn't have her dragons. And Daenerys then enters the chamber where she left her remaining 2 dragons, and she calls to Viserion and Rhaegar. One snaps her, and they begin spewing fire, and she flees, and she basically sees that there's nothing she can do. She can't tame these dragons. She wants to tame them somehow, but she can't do that. So I find that really interesting. I'm interested in seeing where that's going to go, and I find that overall very interesting. I can't wait to see what happens with Daenerys, with Daenerys and the dragons. I'm very interested in seeing what's going to happen there. So Jon finds Mance at the wall, and Mance already knows what Stannis wants, and he isn't keen on the idea. And Mance says he doesn't want his people bleeding for Stannis, because obviously he doesn't really want, because of course, I like that Jon talks to Mance, because it's best for him to talk to someone from the Night's Watch, and Jon says he knows Mance brought his people south because they won't survive the winter coming north of the wall, and that bending the knee can save them, and Mance remains ready to die. And Jon says they'll burn him alive, and Mance said it's still better than betraying what he believes in, and Mance says that if Jon can't understand why he won't enlist his people in a Force-Sanger's war, there's no point trying to explain. He says that all he ever wanted was the freedom to make his own mistakes, and Mance has walked out of his cell toward the burning post, and Stannis offers his terms to Mance again. Mance says the wall was his home for many years, wishes Stannis good fortune in the years to come. Mance is tied to the post. Melisandre gives a speech about the light and the darkness, good and evil, true God or the false, and she lights the fires of Night's Watch. Stannis' people and the wildlings look on. Jon has seen enough, walks away as Gilly buries her head in Sam's shoulders. You can see that they're really upset what's happening. Shireen closes his eyes, and Cersei smiles. Tormund fights back tears. Suddenly, Jon fires an arrow into Mance's chest. He dies before the fire can take him. He just could not see it happen. He couldn't see the fire. And you can see that Jon, he did not want to see that fire taken. He didn't want to see anything bad happen to Mance, and he just did not want to see Mance get killed by that fire. So he did whatever he could to just make him, not be killed by the fire, because he didn't want the rest of the Night's Watch to see that. Obviously, you could tell it was making them very uncomfortable, and that's how the episode ends. And what an amazing episode this was. Now, I understand that some people said this premiere was kind of boring, but it's setting up so much this season. This is going to be the best season for a couple of reasons. First of all, let's talk about Tyrion and Daenerys. Is Tyrion going to be the one to help Daenerys with her dragons? I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen here, is that Daenerys and Tyrion, he's going to help her, tame her dragons, because she needs to tame her dragons somehow. She needs to tame her dragons somehow, and that's the only way she can. So I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. She can tame her dragons. We'll see. Because, she just has to find a way. Those dragons she is the dragon queen, and without her dragons, she's nothing. She needs to tame her dragon somehow. So I'm interested in seeing what's actually going to happen there. Now, as far as the Night's Watch, how is the Night's Watch going to react to what Jon just did? Are they going to be upset? Clearly they were upset by seeing him burn, so I like that Jon didn't do what Stannis wanted, but how is Stannis going to react to this? Stannis obviously says Sorry, I'm responding to something. Basically, Stannis obviously, thinks he's very powerful and wants things done, and he wants to become king, so you think that's what they're setting up. I kind of feel like that's what's going on there. Cersei and Lancelot. I honestly want these two together. I think they'd be really good together. I think that, maybe he could help Cersei somehow. We'll see what happens there. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen. Also, I feel like Daenerys is going to help Tyrion. She's going to help him find a purpose, because Tyrion, obviously, is really down on his luck. He doesn't really have, much... he doesn't really know where to turn, so I feel like Daenerys can help him find somewhere to turn. I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there as well. I love the flashback we got with Cersei, but what exactly is that setting up? Is that just showing the current state of where Cersei is? Sansa and Petyr, we don't really know where they're headed, but I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there. Brienne and Pod, I want to know if Brienne maybe will help reunite the Starks. I know that's not her main mission right now, but I feel like that's what she's going to try to do, is eventually she's going to try to help the Starks. She's going to try to reunite them, and if that's true, I find that overall to be really interesting, and that's what she wants to do, and also we'll have to see what happens there, if that's really what's going on. I definitely want to talk about Melisandre. Does she have feelings for Jon? I mean, she asked him if he's a virgin. That's not something you don't ask someone who you're not interested in. So I'm interested in seeing what's going to happen there as well. Jaime, is Jaime going to try to help Tyrion? I don't really know where Jaime is headed this season. I mean, clearly Cersei wants something to do with him, so I don't really know where Jaime's headed. Do you think that Tommen is a good king? I mean, they keep talking about Tommen's not a good king. I think someone can help him be a good king, but maybe Jaime will help Tommen be a good king. I could see Jaime doing that. I really could. I mean, Jaime always tries to see the best in people. He always tries to help out people. And Jaime is basically a hero, so I could definitely see him helping out Tommen. But what do you guys think is going to happen there? And also, what's this whole thing about Grey Worm? I'm interested in seeing that as well. This whole thing about... Sons of the Harpy. Are there going to be more murders? We'll see what happens there. I mean, obviously, Daenerys, she does have that, but she needs her dragons, definitely. We'll see what happens after that, but this definitely is setting up a war. There's definitely going to be a huge war. I know that George R. R. Martin said things are going to get bloody and that there's going to be a huge war and that a bunch of people are going to die. I kind of feel like they're setting up Jon Snow's death. I definitely feel like that's what they're setting up here. I think a bunch of the Night's Watch are going to die. I think we are getting a Stark reunion this season. But overall, it's going to be an incredible season. I can't wait for this season. Let me know what you guys saw this episode. That's it for my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for a movie review. And I'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.